your host, Makitha Machette. I want to apologize because there's been some issues going on with the platform that I use to bring the healing station to you. We were supposed to air this show on yesterday, where for some reason my guests and I were not able to log into the platform. It was giving us some technical difficulties, and it seems like it's trying now. But we're not going to let the devil win this one. We know that he is trying to stop us from bringing forth the things that we need to bring to you during the show, the things that are going to be helpful, that's going to be a blessing to many of you, and we're determined to keep on trying. So just pray that we can get through this broadcast without any more technical difficulties. If there's anybody in the audience who can hear me or see me, please send a message to me and let me know that you're viewing. And I want to thank you for viewing with us today. And do me a favor, hit that share button and invite others to view along with you. If you are in the audience, send a message saying hello so that I know that you're there. Because of the technical difficulties, I want to make sure that everybody is able to see us and hear us and receive the information that is going to be brought to you today during the show. Also, don't forget to, if we have any technical difficulties, please don't leave us. Just continue to stay tuned in. We're working on it, trying to get everything resolved, and hopefully there won't be any further issues. But anyway, we are continuing with week 2 of the War Room series, Manifesting Me. During this series, we are helping you to become everything you were created to be. Last week, we talked about finding yourself and owning your voice. Well, today we're going to go a little bit deeper. Have you ever suffered from low self-esteem? Well, I have. And as a result of it, I made some really bad choices in my life. But the low self-esteem that I had was a result of many things that happened during my childhood. And I say was because it's no longer an issue in my life. But because I've been there and done that, I can totally understand what it feels like and what it looks like. And I know how difficult it is to overcome it. There are difficult life events that we face that cause stress, and those things can have a negative effect on your self-esteem. But you'd be surprised how much your personality also plays a part. Now, I want to ask you a few questions. Are you a negative thinker? Are you afraid to take risks, or do you feel unloved or unwanted? Do you think you're unworthy of anything good? Do you compare yourself to others? Do you deprive yourself of self-care? Do you feel you can't do anything right? And do you blame others for your mistakes? These are all signs of low self-esteem and a lack of self-love. And if you answer yes to any of these questions, then get ready to begin your healing process, because today is your day to learn how to love yourself. I want you to buckle up and hold on tight, because we're going into the war room and it's going to be a bumpy ride, but the destination is going to be so worth it. Joining me today are none other than the beautiful songbird, Angelique Wyatt.
How are you all doing out there?
How are you?
I am good.
Very good. And let me bring Pamela Jordan to the healing station.
I'm here.
Hi, Pamela. How are you?
I'm here, but I'm here.
Good. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Pamela, can you hear me? Pamela was having some difficulties hearing me, so I want to make sure that everything is okay on her end. Angelique, you can hear me though, right?
Yes. Yes.
Pamela, can you hear Angelique or me? Angelique, ask her if she can hear me or if she can hear you.
Pamela, can you hear me? She says she can't hear.
Okay, maybe it's something. Pamela, log off and log back in. And then while you do that, I'm going to have Angelique to introduce herself. I'm going to kick her out. I'm going to kick you out and you can log back in. There we go. Sorry to my audience. Angelique, why don't you take a moment and introduce yourself to the audience? Tell us who you were, where you're from, and what you do.
I am Angelique Wyatt. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, but I live in Starkville, Mississippi. I am a administrative assistant in the Oktibbeha County School System. I attend Mount Olivet Church, a missionary Baptist church in Starkville, Mississippi. I am a songstress. Um, I love to motivate and with the youth, young adults, and the women. I am I'm just seeking to do what's right for people.
Good. And you know what? I'm trying to see if Pamela's going to come back in so she
Okay.
can have an opportunity to introduce herself.
Okay.
As I was saying to the audience, you know, we were having some technical difficulties yesterday. We tried so hard to bring this show to you, and it just did not work. We prayed, we rebuked the enemy and everything, and it's just nothing was working for us. So we're bringing it back to you. It's after midnight where I am. So excuse me if I look like I'm about to pass out right now because it's been a very long day after church and everything. And then let me tell you all something. I'm waiting for Pam, so I'm going to waste a little time. Let me tell you what Angelique did. Now, I am all the way over here in West Africa, Nigeria, where I can't get grits, I can't get cornbread, I can't get any of the good foods that I'm accustomed to back home. And she came into the studio eating some ribs, smacking her lips, barbecue sauce
They were
all.
good. Yeah. They were good. My brother smoked them and he did
That was
an
just wrong.
excellent job.
I'm glad you enjoyed your ribs. I wish I had some. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and get this show started. Pamela, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
I am Pamela Jordan. I can hear y'all now. I am from Rocky Mount, North Carolina. I have a ministry that's called Women Transform Ministries for single women. And we just help single women get their lives back on track, build a pros relationship with God, to get their relationship closer with God.
Good. That's good. So you're the perfect person to have on this platform tonight because I know that there are a lot of young women out there who really need to hear what we're going to be talking about today. I
Mhm.
want to take a moment to recognize my guests who are viewing right now. Brenda Holt, I want to thank you so much for your patience and for your love and your support, your encouragement, and everything. And Shatara, CW is the last name showing, so I don't know what that last name is. Shatara, thank you so much
Wyatt.
for Shatara Wyatt. Thank
She's my
you.
sister. Yeah.
That's your
Oh, okay.
sister.
That's
Oh,
my
well,
brother's
how
wife.
are you
Yes.
doing? It's so good to have you
Good.
watching the show. And if there's anybody else that's watching, go ahead and send out a comment so that I know that you're there. But we're going to go ahead and get this show on the road because the devil has tried hard to keep us from bringing it. So I know it's
Mhm.
going to be some good stuff coming out tonight. But anyway, we're going to be talking about developing self love. And one of the things that really have a lot to do with self love is your self esteem. And I want to
Mhm.
ask you, ladies, do you think that there is a difference between self love and self esteem? And what do you, when you hear self love and self esteem, what do you think about, Pamela?
Oh, yeah, there is a difference between the self-love and self-esteem. Self-esteem is more of you self-acceptance, something from other people that you're looking
Mhm.
for that to boost you up. Self-love comes from you loving yourself. And
Oh,
I think
that's
self-love also comes from you loving God, because if he's
yes, definitely.
center and he's in you and you love him, then you begin to love yourself. And I
Yeah.
think that's the like the biggest key. If you have that self-love, is when you have God as part of the center of your
Most
Mhm.
life. It helps that self-love. Yeah.
Most definitely. Hello, Brenda Sneed. She just joined us in the audience. I want to thank you for watching the Healing Station tonight. Angelique, go ahead and tell us what you think about self love and stuff and self esteem.
Well, I agree with Pamela as far as the difference between the two, and I do agree also that you can't have self love if you don't love God, because He is what gives us that strength to love. And
Yes.
if you can't love yourself, you can't love anything else. So,
Right.
and then self esteem is more of like an attitude or adjustment to things that you've gone through in your lifetime, in your
Mm-hmm.
span
Right.
of lifetime. So yeah, there's a huge difference.
Right. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
basically, self love is something that's internal. something that happens on the inside. Whereas self-esteem is something that is actually, it's an external type thing, something that other people can see about you, because it has to do with how you carry yourself, how you deal with other people, relationships, choices that you make in your life. All that can be seen through your self-esteem. And if there is no self-love, then that self-esteem can be very, very low. And depending on your level of self-esteem determine a lot of the choices that you make in your life. Now, we want to talk about why self-love and self-esteem are so important. And Angelique, I want to tell you why they're so important to you.
Okay. You want to talk about, I'm sorry, you say you want to know why
self-love and self-esteem, why are they important?
Okay, for self-esteem is important because it, to me, if you have low self-esteem, it makes you make some decisions that you shouldn't make because you're not thinking highly of yourself or highly of the situation. So you're kind of like tunnel vision almost. But when you have, if you have high self-esteem, you kind of, you're more confident in the things that you're doing on a daily basis or at that moment. So you don't really worry about what, or you're not truly concerned about what the next person is saying, because your self-esteem is so high, and their words are not bringing you down with whatever that subject. And as far as self-love, you have to have self-love, because that is something that is created within yourself. It's because it says it all. It's self-love. If I don't love myself, how can the next person love me? If I don't love myself, how can I tell you or explain to you how I want to be loved? But if I'm a godly woman, God is helping me to go through, to figure out some things, or how, so that helps me to get rid of a lot of things, heal from a lot of things, and love myself. And see, that's one of the things that we, especially as women, uh, we tend to let things that we go through break our self-esteem. And because we don't have self-love, it's easier to break our self-esteem. So it's at the end of the day, even though it's separate, they still go together to help us strive.
Exactly. And Pamela, when you were talking, you were saying how self-love it comes from God, actually, because if you don't love God, you can't love yourself. Was there ever a point in your life where you felt like your self-esteem was really low and you didn't have that self-love for yourself in your life?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Came that
you because your self-esteem is really, you base it on other people's opinion of you. Your self-esteem starts even back when you're a little girl, from what you've been told, how you've been treated, from your parents. And for a lot of women, they still hold on to some of that stuff. It could be negative, it could be positive, and we carry that through our lives and through relationships and different things. Some our self-esteem comes from relationships. If you've been in a bad relationship, you start to, I would say, self-sabotage yourself, because you're always critiquing yourself, and then you start to end up bringing yourself down because you think you should have looked like this, or you should have act like this, and or maybe you should have been smaller, maybe you should have been taller, maybe you should have been talking more differently, and that's part of self-esteem. And that's how we kind of sabotage ourselves, not realizing we're doing it to ourselves and not just other people doing it to us. So your self-esteem, it could be, I want to say, it can work for you, it can work against you. It could work two ways. You can have too much high self-esteem, and people are saying, how can you have too much? You can have so much high self-esteem that you feel like you don't need God and nobody else. And you have some people that are like that we applaud your self-esteem, but when you put a block up there that you don't need God and you need nobody else, and you can do this by yourself, and you got it going on, you boss lady boss, you rolling in this and stuff, that could be damaging self-esteem, because now you're pushing people away. And so it can work for us and it can work against us. But I think, from experience in my own personal life, there were times where my self-esteem was low. because I was seeking out validation. That's one of the cousins of self-esteem. You're seeking out validation from people, from parents. Like I said, if, a lot of stuff comes from when we were little girls. If your mom didn't pay enough attention to you, maybe she worked a lot and you were looking for a validation, certain things that bring your self-esteem. Or if you're in a home where there's not a lot of affection going on, and all you want is, you bring home a report card, you just want your mom to give you a hug or dad to give you a hug and say you did a good job, and they look at you, say, go on girl, go on, go on, that can damage some people's self-esteem, and that can carry people to adulthood, and you're still carrying that same way now that it affects you in so many ways. So there are times I base it on other people, how other people saw me or treated me in certain words. I used to tell my kids, the little story, sticks and stones may break our bones, but words will never hurt us, is a lie. Words do hurt. They hurt more than the sticks and the stones. And that brings a lot of people's self-esteem down. If you're constantly told you're not pretty, you're constantly told, your hair's nappy, why you ain't got a perm, and you trying to go natural, you're constantly told you're not smart. That affects a lot of people's self-esteem, and especially women, so we can do it to ourselves, but we have to be very careful. And it works together. Self-esteem, self-acceptance, all of that works together. But we need the self-love.
Exactly. You said something, Pamela, about other people's opinion of you. And when you were talking about that, something triggered in my head when you were saying how some people may say, oh, you're not tell you you're pretty, or that it may not give you those positive compliments. And then I just thought to myself, but have you ever been around somebody where they look at a person and be like, oh, that person is so pretty to me, and you be like, no, not to me. But, I mean, I'm just being honest.
Yes, I know.
All of us have a different idea of what pretty is.
Right.
What's attractive to us. And then when it's like we don't consider that when it's us. We want everybody to look at us and think we're pretty, but we don't look at everybody else and think that they're pretty. But we allow what other people think to affect us in such a negative way, to the point where
I think it's something I think it's something that we, especially as Christians, we allow society to put on us. We see it every day on the TV, on the news, in the magazines, videos, and you look at certain things, especially our young women, thinking that is the model of what a woman's supposed to be. So if I don't look like her, I'm not accepted. I'm not beautiful, and that brings a lot of young girls' self-esteem down, They're
like this big.
Right.
You don't
society,
see that many people in the world that size.
Society creates. And society creates a lot of the self-esteem, especially in the women or the girls as children, like you said, the models and the hair down. You're supposed to have the long flowing hair, or it has to be a certain way. That's why you see a lot, or the long nails or this, and then the way you should dress and the way you shouldn't dress. And society has a lot to do with that. And within the males, it has a lot to do with that you're not going to be anything if you're not an athlete or a race car driver or this or that. And it's not teaching them the right way. It's one thing to teach them to be successful in life, but it's another thing to teach them to be successful the way they say be successful.
Exactly.
And so then when if they're not that size, or they're not doing this in school, it breaks their self-esteem, and then people feed off of that. So you're getting piled and piled and piled. And if you don't have that self-love or someone else out there to help you build up your self-esteem, even when society says that it should be a certain way, if you don't have that person, like Pamela said, if you don't have that parent or that guardian or that sister or that brother to help you, then your self-esteem is low. So when you become an adult, somebody gets that and runs with it, and now you're miserable, they're miserable, the situation is miserable. So you have to you as mentors, especially of women and youth, we have to help build up their self-esteem, because a lot of them around now, self-esteem is so low.
So
So
yeah,
mhm.
it's yeah, you're right. I mean, I agree with you. It is so yeah, it is so low,
Mhm.
and you see it in our young women, our young girls, that you have to look like this, you have to dress like this. If you're not, you
Mhm.
don't have this kind of attitude, and you're not accepted, and the self-esteem is so. You're right. It's very low because
Mhm.
they're looking at what society is saying that is what you're supposed to be. I saw a movie. Me and my daughter sat and watched this movie, and I want to get off, but a couple of weeks ago, it's called Bad Hair on Netflix.
Mhm.
And in the movie, yeah, you seen it?
Yeah.
The young lady, she had her hair was natural, very dark skin, skinny young lady. She, I mean, one of the best, but she was smart. But the
Mhm.
company, they wanted her to be this model of what everybody else was: straight hair, long hair, dressing nice. But that wasn't her. But then she got caught up into that, and it affect, all that
Mhm.
affected her self-esteem when she was looking around, looking at all the women and the boss and everything. And the movie is good. It's good in two ways to see what happens when you fall in the trap of
Mhm.
society wanting to
Yeah.
be. She lost who she was in it. She lost who she really was, and the person that God created her to be, because she got caught up in, you got to have your weave, and nothing against weave, nothing against track, depending on what are you wearing it for.
Right.
If you're wearing it for, like you said, for your self-esteem, that you're wearing it for the wrong reason.
Right.
You want it down your back because you want acceptance from a man, or you looking for acceptance from your dad. So you're wearing the long hair, you're getting the butt pads, you walk around here trying to you got waist trainers on where you can't even have breathe, trying to be skinny and boost everything up, and that's not what the purpose for them. That's
Right.
what waist trainers wasn't made for you to do, but people are using
Mhm.
them out of context, where
Mhm.
Right.
because of self-esteem, because you want to look
Mhm.
like something that society is saying that's the model woman, when you don't realize you are the model woman.
Right.
People
Because
need to
that's
be
the way
looking
God
from
made
you.
you.
That's right. That's the way God made you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
That's like,
another thing. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say that's like for me. I'm in a family of 7 children. I'm the only girl, and I can say without a shadow of a doubt, I'm a daddy's little girl. And they didn't allow me to have low self-esteem, whether they were doing it purposely or not. But they let me know that I was beautiful. They let me know that I could sing. They let me know that I could do this and do that, and the different things, and my size and everything was fine. So when I got out and I started dating, I got on my own, my self-esteem stayed high. I was confident. I didn't have a high self-esteem where you couldn't talk to me, but my
Right.
self-esteem, you couldn't just say anything. Till to this day, you can't just say anything to me. Thank God that I listen. I love myself, and I also listen to my brothers, and I heard them, and I listened to my father, I listened to my mothers, and so I had that background or that group support. But a lot of people now don't have that. So because they don't have that, mentors should want to work hard to give them that. Because when a child is 7 and 8 years old and committing suicide,
Like,
7 and 8 years old,
my thing is, how do they even get the idea?
We
right.
got a problem. Yeah,
Yes.
that's a problem. That's terrible.
I have a 7-year-old, and I can't imagine her even thinking about something like that.
Mm.
Right.
Because
Because of your self-esteem.
yeah,
Right.
because
Yeah.
society has said so many things. So they go to school and they call them fat, or they call them skinny, or they call them too white, or they call them too dark, or and they taunt them. The kids that are doing it, they don't realize that it's a form of bullying until somebody gets to them and say something.
Right.
But again, society has made it
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
you have to be a certain size, you have to be a certain color, your hair has to be a certain way. If I wear weave, I wear weave because I just wanted my hair like that day,
Right.
and that's
Right.
what I'll do. If
Right.
I wear makeup, I'm wearing makeup because I want to wear makeup. It's
Right.
not because now if he tells me I'm cute in it, I might wear it again, but
Yeah.
I'm still doing it for myself.
For my right.
You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
now
That's
granted, I love compliments now.
But
You
you're
can
not
bring
going
those.
to turn down any compliments
Right,
either.
you know. Just saying.
You got to think raised up in an environment where you were told that you were pretty, that you were, encouraged and you were lifted up by your parents. But, even with my daughters, because I have 2 daughters, and my oldest daughter, and both of them actually, I tell all the time how pretty they are. But my oldest daughter, I had an issue with her because she had really low self-esteem at one point. And I would always tell her, oh my God, you're so pretty, because she's a beautiful girl. But it wasn't until other people started telling her how pretty she was that she started feeling good about herself. And I'm like, but Kamaya, I've been telling you this all along. And you know what she said to me? You're my mama. You're supposed to say that.
She's not telling her to. She's not telling her. You're supposed to.
And so it's like my opinion didn't matter because she felt like I was only saying it because I'm her mother. And that was my responsibility to tell her those things.
It was. Well, technically,
my responsibility.
But technically, she's not wrong with that. Technically, she's not. As parents, we should be our children's biggest cheerleaders, our children's biggest supporters. If nobody ever tells them that they're beautiful, they can do this and that, we should be able to find whatever they're doing and just blow it out of proportion, so to speak. Yeah. So technically, she was not wrong. But at the same time, now you have to convince her, yeah, I am your mother and I'm telling you that. But at the same time, you're still beautiful, whether I was your mother or not.
Yes. And that's what I tell her. I'm like, whether I'm your mom or not, I would still see you as being beautiful, because then when I look at her, that's what I see. Not just because she's my child, but because she's a beautiful girl.
Right. And she
is.
I agree. She is.
I agree with you.
Yeah. Or not, at least I know I'm planting that seed.
Yes. And that's what we have to do.
And like you said, that's important that we do it as parents, grandparents, uncles. If you're a young lady that don't have a father, you have uncles. I agree with it. Should start at home. I love it when you said your brothers, they lift your self-esteem up. They told you these things. And I think that's where a lot of young girls nowadays are missing. They're missing, even they're in a home and don't have a father. If you have brothers, that's the brother's job to lift her self-esteem up and tell her how beautiful she is. That's the uncle's job to tell her how beautiful she is. And because if they don't get it from those people, then they're out seeking it other ways and seeking it from other people. And I think that's the biggest mistake we have made in society, definitely in the Black community, is that we don't lift them up. I love it when you're the only girl and your dad, that self-esteem, he kept boosting that your brothers. We need more of that in the homes. And I know there's a lot of young ladies probably listening, but I don't have a dad. So where do I get it from? You get it from a brother if you have a brother. If you don't have a brother, you got an uncle somewhere. If you don't have an uncle, you got a pastor. The men got to step up, because they're the men that are in their lives, and they need to hear from them first, before they go out and hear it from Joe Blow,
somebody else.
And somebody else.
Because there are a lot of women that I know who have sons, and I always hear them say, I always teach my son how to treat women. So when they get older, they know how to respect women.
That's true.
But then at the same time, I'm like, okay, but how are you teaching your son to treat the women in his household?
Yes.
Are you teaching him to encourage and inspire his sisters and to talk to his sisters and build them up and build up their self-esteem? Because those are the first women in his life. The mother and the sisters are the first women, or the first females in his life, his aunts. How is he treating those women in his family? So he needs to understand that it's not just about treating the women on the outside good. You have to start with the women on the inside. We have a saying that says charity begins at home and it spreads abroad.
Right.
And that's one thing I tell my children all the time. You love the people in your household first. This is where your training is. This is where you get your lesson. This is the foundation of it all. And because whatever you do here, I know that's what you're going to do when you go out. So if you have sons in your household and you're raising sons, or you have boys in your household, teach them how important it is to love the women in the household first. And then teaching them how to treat them and love them and respect them, then they will understand that that's something that they need to do.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And be an example too. You got to be that you're teaching them, but also you got to live the example of what you're teaching. Because we can teach you, say one thing and live a whole example, and then they seen you with getting treated this way by
Mm-hmm.
somebody else. You trying to
And
tell them
that's
this is how
what
you treat
right.
women. Well, you know, if you're going to teach them, and I agree, I hear that too a lot. Well, you know, I'm raising son, and I'm trying to teaching my son how to treat women. Well, how's he treating you? How's he treating his sisters? What
Right.
example are you
Mm-hmm.
showing him how to treat women? Because if you're
Mm-hmm.
not showing that example, and you're showing an example where you're allowing men to lower your self-esteem, and you're allowing men to come and walk all over you and
Mm-hmm.
treat you, that's going against what you're trying to teach
Right.
him, because
Right.
Right.
he's learning from what he's seeing you doing as a woman as his example.
Yes.
And then you're teaching him one thing and trying to tell him, well, you got to do this way, but then
Mm-hmm.
you let somebody do you like this.
Right.
So I
Right.
Right.
think you got to do both ways. We got to teach them and show example, be an example.
Yes.
And see, and then I got two things. Okay, with that one, we're talking about teaching them how to treat them. You know, one thing I tell my daughter, when you, because she's dating, so when you meet a man, find out the relationship of him and his mother. Find out if he has
Yeah.
sisters and how they are, because that interaction, whether good or bad, probably is gonna be how he's gonna treat you.
Right.
You know, if he cussing mama out, yeah, he gonna cuss you out. He cussing his
Yep.
sisters out, he gonna cuss you out. If he don't
Yeah.
love them or he is estranged for them, by 5 months down the line, he gonna be estranged from you.
Right. And it
So
doesn't matter what he tells you mama did or sisters did or
yeah,
aunties
you
did.
have to look at that.
Paint a
Mm-hmm.
picture to make you think that everybody's against them, that they're the victim,
Right.
when they're
Thank
the
you.
ones
You
who
have
are
to
in
be
Yes.
mindful of that. But then
Yes.
Yes.
too, we have to understand too. I know we're saying about little girls and their self-esteem, but gangs are not full of little girls. Gangs are full of little
Right.
boys. I mean, little girls are in them, but you have a lot of boys that are gang members because of low self-esteem, because
Exactly.
they still didn't have daddy in the house, or mama was in the house and they saw mama sleeping with this person, that person, or mama was getting abused. So they went into their shells. And the one
Yes.
thing that I've been
Yes.
noticing in
Yes.
this walk, and God is showing me some things. A man's hurt is so much different. Their healing process is so much different than a female's, because even though we hurt and we get hurt more than a man, we will still step out, and low self-esteem or not, we will still step out and try it again and try it again. Well, with a
Mm-hmm.
man or a boy or whatever, that first major hurt, if
Yes.
that child doesn't heal from that, everybody in that
Yes.
path
That's
deals with
right.
it,
That's right.
That's
especially
right.
in relationships. If a woman hurt a man, he didn't forgive that woman or heal from it, every woman that he deals with that hurt from that
Exactly.
first woman. So we're
Exactly.
talking about, I know we
Yes.
were mentioning our daughters and our daughters and our, but at the same time, even though a man should be able to give that young man that advice, sometimes there's no one around. Sometimes there's not an uncle. I thank God I had uncles and granddaddies and great uncles and best friends. So I thank God that I had a great circle and still have a great circle, because my boys are still
Mm-hmm.
young men. So my daddy will talk to them, their uncles will talk to them, my best friend, my guy friend, people would talk to them, so that helps them. And I thank God that they didn't have to turn to the streets. But a lot of times, the reason why there's so many gang members and so many heartless males out there, because they are hurting and
Yes.
no one took the time to find out why and help them heal. That's why all the pastors and ministers now, a lot of them are trying to grab, what COVID is stopping a lot of stuff, but they were trying to grab them and start mentoring to our young men as well as our young women, because it would stop this heartless killings. It'll
Yeah.
stop, I don't
Yeah.
care, I'm finna break in your house, I don't want to work, because they have to see positive to do positive.
To do
Because at
positive.
the end
Yeah.
of the day, when they see us, what they see is what they're going to model. My goddaughter is 8 years old. She's been in my life since she was 8 months. And everybody say that's nobody but you. But everything she does is positive. It's a positive thing. Now, sometimes she kind of get a little sly, but she tries her love. But as far as like loving on people and talking to people and asking questions and wanting to do things right and in the school, it's because she has a positive foundation.
And it's
And
important.
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's
I agree with
important.
you with the guys. That is
Yeah.
yeah, we have unfortunately we do have a lot of young men that have a lot of low self-esteem, and we mistake the low self-esteem as being thugs and being hard and all that, where really they're covering up. There are a lot of them that have low self-esteem, and some of the stuff that they do is the reason why of that. And they really need, like you said, need to be mentored, need to be talked to about some of the self-esteem, because if they're not getting the love from home, yeah, we want to say, I'm teaching my son how to treat women, but are you loving on him? Are you showing that? Because like I said earlier, you get a son that comes in and may say, Ma, just give me a hug, but you too busy, you don't want to give him a hug, and you telling him, go on, boy, go on, get out of here. Or you tell him, men don't cry, suck it up, boy, suck it up, don't be showing her tears.
That when a person tell a boy, boys don't cry or men don't cry.
That's a tell. Tell your boy to
That's
let
a
it
tell. That
out.
affects their self-esteem. That affects their self-esteem. And then
Yep.
they grow up to be 50-year-old men who have no emotions and are scared to show
They don't
emotions when
supposed
they
to
get in a
cry.
relationship, because they ain't supposed to cry. They're not supposed to let the female know that I really like you, but I can't show you that emotion, because if I do, that makes me vulnerable, because I've been told all my life not to show emotion. And that affects the self-esteem. It becomes a cycle. And I agree, we got to get back into the mentoring and talking to the guys and allowing them to open up and allowing them to share their hurts and pains just as much as we do as women, because they do. We have a lot of young men, grown men, old men that have low self-esteem.
Right. And the thing that came to my mind when you all were talking, especially when Angelique was talking about the gangs and everything and how white boys get into gangs. But then, not all males who have low self-esteem take that route. And like you were saying, Pamela, a lot of them, they become emotionally unavailable. They just don't know how to love, because men, once they're hurt that first time, they shut down. And anybody who comes after that, like she said, they feel the effect of that hurt, because they're taught, they're not taught how to communicate properly. So they don't know how to express themselves and tell anybody how they're feeling. Or they've always been told, oh, well, you need to suck it up, take it like a man. But I'm like, taking it like a man is communicating how you feel and expressing to somebody how you feel, so that you can resolve the issues that are going on within you. Just telling somebody, take it like a man. I'm like, what the world is that supposed to mean?
What does that mean? Right.
What does that mean?
I see men take that women take too. So I'm like, that is not justifiable to me. But a lot of men, I had a conversation recently with a guy that I grew up with. And let me tell you, when we were growing up, this boy was fine. You hear me? All the girls in the neighborhood was crazy about this guy. But we were having a conversation recently, and he was telling me how self-conscious he was growing up in the community, because when they moved into the community, he was like the only light-skinned guy in the whole community. He and his brother moved in. They were these light-skinned boys. Nobody around them would have that complexion. So they felt out of place being in a community where they were the only light-skinned people. And because of that, he felt like, he didn't fit in. And I'm like, but boy, don't you know how fine we thought you were back then? But it didn't matter that we thought that about him. Because we were girls, so a lot of us were shy. We didn't go to him and just tell him how he looked or how we felt.
Yeah.
But if we had somebody on the inside in this home to tell him or to explain to him, it's okay to be different. It's okay to be you. It's okay that you don't look like everybody else that you see around you. Just love yourself and be who you are. Then maybe he would have been able to come out of that shell that he was in when he was younger. And he turned out to be a wonderful man, but still the struggle that he went through in his childhood, I'm sure it took a long time for him to overcome those things. So we have to, like we said in the beginning, we have to plant those seeds in our children and let them know what self-esteem, really why it's important, how you build it. We have to build it in them and then teach them how to continue building it in themselves as they get older. And because there is a misconception about what self-esteem or how we receive self-esteem or how self-esteem is, and we think that it's all about what other people think about us when it's really about what you think about yourself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You are
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. We think
Um,
it's, yeah. Ooh. Ooh, I'm sorry. We think, society has us thinking too that, self-esteem is about your money, about your status,
Yeah.
and all that, and that has nothing to do with self-esteem at all.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But one thing with me, as Angelique was saying, with me, my mom worked a lot when I was a child. She worked a lot. She was a single mom, so she had no choice. So that meant
Mm-hmm.
that I spent a lot of time at home by myself looking after my little brother. And because I didn't have that interaction with her, because she was never really around to talk to me or to teach me a lot of things, my self-esteem was really, really low growing up. And as a result of that, I made some really, really bad relationship choices, just because I started looking for love outside
Mm-hmm.
and trying to find, grew up without a father. So looking for that fatherly love in the men that I dated, in the men that I met, and
Mm-hmm.
it turned
Yep.
out to be disappointment because there's a void that you're trying to fill that a human being just cannot fill for you.
Mm-hmm.
They cannot fill that void. It's a
That's true.
void God can fill. A relationship with God only fills that void. And then when you will have that relationship with Him, you will realize exactly what self-love is all about. But because I was trying to fill that void with relationships and with men and even with material things, for a long time I suffered and I did not receive my healing because I had a misconception of where I could get that self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. That when you sent the outline of what the topic was and you said the outline, I started to think about all of the things that I've gone through and the
Mm-hmm.
things that I've gone through in my life myself. Now just looking at, if I wrote down just the events, not the details of the events, but if I wrote down the events of my life that I've gone through, all that I could remember, and shared it with you too, you would look at it and probably be like, oh, her self-esteem should be shot. But at the same time, you'll think about, wow, look at her. She's talking like, just like a little bit of what I just went through and what I'm going through, because some of it is still lingering. That, and certain people know that, and people tell me all the time, you're so strong. But what people don't know about me is, I was on a call earlier today, a podcast earlier today. It was never me to begin with. When it all happened, I had to really step out of the situation in that natural mode. And that's where that self-love comes from. As you said earlier, Pam, but because of God, I know who I am and whose I am. So I had to go to God, that ugly cry. And I
Mm-hmm.
had to tell him I gotta get past this situation.
Right.
So I had to forgive all that was involved in this situation. Forgive
Yes.
myself, because, and I'm not gonna say I'm a saint. Now I'm a good girl, as people say, but I'm not a saint. I can do some stuff and I can say some stuff if I really wanted to. I
That's
just
right.
try to hold back. It's kind of hard sometimes, but my face will say it. My mouth might not, but my eyes. And if Sharika listening, or if she hear this later,
My
she'll
eyes
tell
and
you.
my mouth will say it.
Yeah, well, my friend Sharika and Tawana, they will tell you my face might not say it, but my mouth, my mouth might not say it, but my face, oh my God. And my sister Shatara, she just said a couple of days ago that she saw a look on my face. I never said anything, but she saw the look on my face. So I know me. So I had to ask God to forgive me and help me to forgive myself,
And your
to
face.
forgive to, to forgive all that was involved, and help me to forgive them. And then I had to stay humble and stay quiet. So I have self-love, and I became closer with him and that walk, and I had to surrender some things so he could fill me with him and take me out. So now I look at things different. Now sometimes, they touch that nerve where self want to come out, but I have to stay humble. But again, with being one with him, it helps me to have self-love because I love myself. So I don't want to be in jail. I definitely don't want to be dead yet. I'm not gonna push the issue to where I gotta go home early if he's not ready for me. So I'm gonna be quiet. And I know he did not create me to be locked down because he knows what his daughter does. He knows the impact that I have on others' lives. So I have enough self-love to know how to shut up, basically. So that again goes with my self-esteem, because those situations could have took me out in so many different ways. But because I was raised with so much self-esteem, not arrogant, but to know that you are, as that girl said on that movie, I think The Help, you are beautiful, you are loved, you are kind. And I know I might not be saying it right, so nobody don't quote me and be inboxing me, telling on me or fussing at me. But she made that little girl know that no matter what, you are basically, you're God's creation, and you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. So there's nothing, or there's no man or woman that should be able to tear you down, no matter their race, their position or anything. So if we start to teach children at an early age self-esteem, start to build children at an early age their self-esteem, and then start to teach them or direct them in self-love, we wouldn't have a lot of the issues we have. It's especially in our community.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
One thing you were talking about, how you had to learn how to not say certain things, or how to, because self-love actually teaches you self-control. Because when you love yourself, you want to build that integrity. Your integrity means something to you, and you want to have good integrity. When you have self-love, you set standards, you have boundaries, and there's a certain lifestyle that this is what I want in life. And anything that doesn't look like that, that you have to turn away from it. And so you build that self-control so that when you see certain things that you don't want to be a part of your life, even if it's your mouth, you do what you have to do to correct those things or to eliminate those things from your life. So self-control is a big part of having self-love too. So if you're in a situation where you find yourself always talking, or situations get escalated because you feel like you always got something to say, then that's probably lacking self-love, because self-love teaches you when to speak. It teaches you when to be quiet, because you're building that reputation that you want to be known for. Not that you should be so concerned about what everybody's saying, what everybody think about you, but it's about what you think about you. And you should think highly enough of yourself that you want to be a person that has that type of control, where you're not known for starting problems or being controversial all the time. It's okay to speak up about what you feel and to speak your mind when people offend you. It's okay to speak up and let them know that they've offended you. But there is a way to do it. And as we always say, it's not always what you say, but it's how you say things.
That's how you say it.
Amen. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. I think, like you said, a lot of self-love, I think a lot of women got to learn self-love, because some of them don't have it, or really, I don't say don't have it. Let me take that back. You have self-love, is that you need to learn how to implement the self-love. You've been hurt so much, you've been in situations and things have happened. I think you got to be taught how to self-love yourself, and that can come from affirmation, that can come from looking yourself in the mirror every day and loving on yourself, because many of us out there especially single women, you seeking love in relationships, you seeking love
Mm-hmm.
from other people. Like you said, every now and then, God has to remind you that He loves you and you do love yourself. Yes, you've made some mistakes, but
Mm-hmm.
to love yourself is to learn from your mistakes. To love yourself is to seek God and say, you know what, God, I messed up. I
Yeah.
need your help. Allow this person to take me out of character, take me out of not believing in my self-love, because I'm seeking love so much and I'm seeking to be loved, and not realize I love myself. And that's more important, because if I love myself and the way I treat myself, then others will treat me the same. But
Right.
if I'm not treating myself with pride and dignity and loving myself, then this man is not going to love me either. He's not going to, because he's replicating how I'm treating myself. So I think a lot of women out there, especially for us, is learning how to self-love, because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of them will tell you they don't know how to love themselves, because like you said, they don't have those mentors. They don't have other women. That's why it's so important we lift each other up and
Mm-hmm.
encourage each other, because there's a lot of women out here that don't love themselves, don't know how to love themselves. But God will always remind you, you have self-love within you because you have me. But it's just
Mm-hmm.
allowing yourself to love yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and stop beating yourself up. Stop
Exactly.
getting mad. Yes, you made a mistake, but stop tearing yourself down.
Right.
Love yourself. You made a
Right.
mistake, give it to God, give it over to Him, and keep moving and keep loving yourself. Don't allow your guilt, your mistakes, your pain, your issues, situations to dictate how you love yourself. And I think
Right.
that's one thing that's important. A lot of women got to be taught how to self-love again.
Yep.
Yeah. And one
Yep.
thing I learned is that in my life, one thing I learned is that how other people were treating me was really just a reflection of how I was treating myself.
It was,
Because
Yes.
yes,
when people
yes,
see that you don't love
yes.
yourself, like you said, they're not going to show you that love. They're going to treat you
Mhm.
however you treat yourself, which is why
Yep.
self love is so important. We'll tell a
Mhm.
person all the time, I want you to love me the way I deserve to be loved. But how do you think you deserve to be loved?
Right.
Right,
You know,
right.
that
Can you
you're going to
define that?
set
Yeah,
the standard.
yeah.
Do you love yourself enough to tell me how to love you?
Right.
Exactly.
And
To tell
most
me
people
how to
don't.
love
Most people can't
myself.
even define it.
Yeah, not just to
Yeah,
tell
most
me how
people
to
can't
love
say it.
me, but
Yeah.
how to love me properly. Because
Hmm.
everybody's idea of love is not the same. So I
Right.
have to be able to know what's good for me, what's best for me. And I tell people all the time, the standards that I set for myself were based on what God wants for me. Not
Amen.
because
Amen.
I'm human and I'll mess it up. I know I will. I've done it before and I'll do it again if I do it in my own accord. So I have to, there's a certain standard according to
Mm-hmm.
God's word that I set for myself. So when people ask me, well, what do you think love is? Love is God. And if you can't love me like He loves me, then I don't want it. The word
Right.
of God tells you in a relationship that a man is supposed to love a woman as he loves himself. In a
Mm-hmm.
marriage, I mean, that you're supposed to love
Hmm.
that woman as he loves his own flesh. And I'm like, and I've never seen any man walking around just slapping himself in the face. I've never
Right.
seen any man punching himself.
Amen.
I've never seen a
Yep.
Yeah.
man cheating on himself. I've never seen a man lie. They might lie to themselves, but that's a whole different story right there. But I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
but when you look at it, if that man is doing something to you that he would not do to himself, that
Yeah.
is not love.
That's right.
Any harm
Yeah.
that
Mm-hmm.
he's causing to you that he will not inflict upon himself, it's not love. And we really
Mm-mm.
have to understand what love is in order for us to love ourselves properly
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
first. Then,
And
when
you're
we
right.
properly learn how to love ourselves, we can teach others how to love us.
How
But
to
then,
love us. Yeah.
but let me, you know what? When others see that you love yourself, you really don't even have to tell them how to love you because they're going to reflect what they see.
Amen.
Mhm.
I was
Right.
gonna wait till you finish and say that. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
I was waiting till I
That's
was sitting
it.
here like, oh, I'm jumping. It was like I was like double dutch. I was like,
Double
all right,
judge.
all right.
But
But I mean,
Yes.
because it's true.
and
It's
I
true.
how
Yes.
can I love? How can you love me, or how can I tell you how to love me when I don't even love myself. If you
Right.
ask me, how do I love myself, and I can't tell you, I don't expect for you. You can't come in and heal me if I'm not healed. That's not
Right.
your.
And I
You
can't tell you. Yeah.
right,
If I can't tell you, that I think that's the big problem.
right,
Yeah. We say it, like you said, we say, I want to be loved and love me. And I mean, men and women, vice versa. But no one can define what is love. How,
Right.
I don't know. I don't know because I don't love myself. I got to
right,
start loving myself. So now I
right.
can tell you how to love me, how to touch me, how to treat me, how to
Yes.
care for me. If I don't know it, I can't tell you how to do
Now,
these things.
now, granted, I told one person said something about wanting to love me and how, and I just really didn't like this person. So I was but when I thought about my answer, I was like, well, it is kind of true. I told him, I was like, well, if you're so into God and you're such this, because he's like a man of the cloth. And I was like, but if you know God's voice and you want to be with one of his children, I don't have to tell you how to love me because God is going to, because he was like, I'm going to be your next husband and we're going to be this and we're going to be that. But if that's the case and God told you I was going to be your wife, I'm sure God told you how to love me, what you're going to do to get me, what you got to do to keep me, and what you got to do for us to be married. And if he didn't tell you that, bro, I'm not yours.
You know what?
It was harsh, but it was true.
I had a man to come to me one day and tell me, he was like, God told me that you were going to be my wife. I said, honey, God didn't tell me that until he come
I
to
missed
me
that
and give me
memo.
confirmation of that. I can't do that. I can't, because they'll tell you anything. They will
But if
tell
your
you.
self-esteem was low, if your
You'll fall
self-esteem
for
was
it.
low, you would have fell for it. Yep.
Yeah, you'll
Yep.
fall
You
for
would
it
have
because you be
fallen
like,
for
oh
it.
yeah, yeah. But
I'm
if you're
finna be his
yeah,
wife. Get you in
yeah,
there and
and
have
you
about 5
know,
more women in there and everything. Mm-mm.
yeah,
Go ahead
because
and
I
do
shouldn't have, like you said, I shouldn't have to tell you,
it.
you know.
Prophet. You know, he called himself a prophet. And I'm like, honey, if you were a true prophet, then God would have told you that I was not the one.
Yep. Because if he, I just like I told her, I said, well, what's my favorite? If God telling you all this stuff, what's my favorite colors? Where I
Right.
live? What's it? And I was just saying, don't do that. Don't, because my self-esteem, just because you see me on Facebook and you see me posting spiritual motivations, you thinking just because I'm posting it that it's about me. Just because I post it, it's not about me. I'm posting it for
Right.
motivation because God put it on
Right.
my heart to share it with the
Right.
world. But
Well,
just because
one
they
thing,
see that, they
yeah,
think something's
they
wrong.
think that. One thing I learned, and one thing I teach when I talk to some of the single ladies, one, don't come with what God told me. God told me this. God told me that. No, God ain't tell you all
So
that
God
because
didn't tell
one,
me that.
God, He ain't doing all that, telling you and this and that. If I'm the one, then you got to do the things that God is showing you because He's not going to tell you exactly who. Okay, that's your wife. That's your husband. No, because I almost say God got more important things to do, but there are some things God leaves to us. There's some things
Mm-hmm.
God leaves to us to make a decision. And as soon as they come
Mm-hmm.
over the back, well, God told me you're my wife, that lets me know, no, that ain't true. He
God
ain't,
know me. He didn't tell you
because if
that.
he ain't told me, but he told you, it don't work like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing from God just as much as you're hearing from God. God did not ring my phone. God did not call me. We did not talk about you in my prayer time. So how is that?
I
So
missed that Zoom meeting.
I'm still working on my mouth. So see somebody come to me now and tell me something like that, and God told me you my wife, and God told me you were crazy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, we gotta stop lying. They gotta stop lying on God. God gonna tell you something for real. God gonna tell you about yourself
Yeah.
and tell you what you need to do for yourself. Then God gonna tell you how you need to love yourself,
Right.
so that when she do see you, she sees how you love yourself. Then she knows how you can love her.
Yeah.
But did God tell you that? No, God ain't told you that. He
Mm-mm.
ain't told you that you need to get some deliverance before
Mm.
you come. Yeah.
Come on
So
now. Come on now. Come on.
that's
One
it.
thing that we have to do, though, that's really important, especially for those who are watching, is that you have to be able to recognize when you're suffering from a lack of self-love or a lack of self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people are out there who are actually have low self-esteem, they have no self-love, and they don't even realize that that is the issue, the thing
Right.
that is causing a lot of the problems that they're having in their life. But you look at your life, and if you see where you've been stuck in a cycle, a bad cycle of making choices, and for me, it was making bad relationship choices. I was stuck in that cycle, oh my God, for
Yeah.
so long. And I had to stop and just think to myself, what is it about me? Because I was so focused on what the men were doing to me
Mm-hmm.
and how they were treating me, and they weren't treating me right. They weren't loving me
Mm-hmm.
right. And then I had to stop and think, what is it about you that causes you to keep choosing these kind of men?
Yep. Yep.
What is it
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
you that allows you or causes you to stay with them once you realize they're not treating you right? So
That's
there
Mm-hmm.
right.
is some soul searching that you have to do in order
Yes.
for
Oh,
you to be
yes.
able to understand what, the issue that's going on. It's lack of self-love. Oh my God, it will mess you all the way
Yeah.
Yep.
up.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you, I mean, yeah, you hit it on the nail on the head, because
Yeah.
I've had situations. My pastor told me when we were talking, he would say, what scent are you sending off? And I'm looking at him like, what you talking about? What scent? I ain't no animal. I'm thinking something negative, but he was like, what scent? Because whatever you're
Mm-hmm.
putting off, like you said, you're attracting this, you're attracting that, you're attracting these type of people. And I had to step back and look at that same thing.
Exactly.
It's my self-esteem.
Exactly.
I had low self-esteem. And then you
Mm-hmm.
begin to accept everything, and you begin to accept everybody when you know that this ain't right, when
Mm-hmm.
you don't deal with this, you're allowing this, you start to compromise your salvation, you start to
That's
compromise, and after a while, God got to hit you upside your head. He be like, wait a minute here, daughter, you come too far. Step back, look at the situation, and then when you start to step back and really look, because we got to be real. We're not in the spirit all the time. We're not in the spirit 24/7.
You're right.
I'm not
Right.
saved every day, and I'm not talking to God all the time. So I slip and fall just like anybody else. You'll fall into a relationship with someone just like anybody else before. But the difference is that we can still hear the voice of God, and God will literally talk to you and say, you got to step back, look at the situation. What's going on? Why are you dealing with this? You are better than that. You've come a
exactly.
long ways. Why are
Yeah.
you dealing with this? You don't have to deal with it. I have better for you. And you have to really begin to check your self-esteem and say, you know what, God, you're right. And then you have to tell yourself, like you said in the movie The Help, she told her, you sometimes we gotta tell ourselves that stuff every day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm better than this. I don't deserve to get hit. I don't deserve to be treated like this. I don't deserve to be getting cheated on. We're sitting here talking, and you texting some other girl, stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. You
Mm-hmm.
deserve better, because there are many women out there that's probably listening. You're on a date with a guy, but he's texting some other woman. He ready to
The
get rid
whole
of
time.
you
Yeah.
and go mess with somebody else,
Yeah.
but you're still hanging
Exactly.
around. You're still
Exactly.
hoping and wishing that he's the one. And God sometimes have to smack us aside our faces and say, daughter, beloved, I love you.
Yeah.
That don't love you. Let's get your self-esteem back, because you've
Right.
letting it go because you're seeking for something. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you
Right.
really have to be
We're not gonna
honest.
take too much longer. But I've been for because Angelique has an event. She's had a death in the family, and she's with her family and everything. And I don't want to hold her time up, and I know she has guests and everything. But Angelique, before we close out, I
Mm-hmm.
want you, because we're talking about building self-esteem. I
Okay.
want you to tell us what you think. What does it take to build self-esteem for those? And we talked about the children and how we
Mm-hmm.
can build it in children, but how can we build it in ourselves?
In ourselves. We have to, as we said, there are many things out there. We can write a confession of our own, or
Mhm.
there are people who have them. I mean, you can Google them and everything, but you have to start talking to yourself. You have to start speaking. Like I have three of them that I read out. There's a song that I listen to, and I repeat these different sayings. One is I'm not the tail, I'm the head. I mean, it's a lot of different ones, and I just can't repeat them all right now. The I am. Um, and I repeat them daily because it gives me self-esteem, it gives me confidence, it keeps me lifted, and it also keeps me closer to Christ because they're
Yes.
confessions. And with those confessions, I'm telling myself, as I'm in the mirror repeating these things, I'm telling myself that I'm confident. I know whose I am. I know who I am. I know when I walk out this house to go to work, if I don't come back, I know that I live the life that I feel is pleasing to God. When I go to work, if I make it to work, Lord, praise I do, that I'm going to do my best. And Lord, you know, and I talk to God, God, give me the strength. God, give me that understanding. God, help me to have the encouraging word, even right now doing what I'm going through. One of the things people was like, well, what do you want to pray for? I said, ask God to pray that my shoulders are big enough, that my words are encouraging enough. Those are the two, because people look to me for so much strength. So I ask God to give me that strength, because I know even if I don't really want it for real, because I know what I'm going through, I know people look at me for that. So there's certain things that you're going to ask to get that self-esteem back. You're going to first stop surrounding yourself around negative people, because
Yes.
everybody is not for you. Everybody don't want you to be successful. Everybody don't want you to be at the top of the world, even though they don't realize that maybe when you get up there, you're going to grab them and pull them up there with you, or they can walk with you and you all are successful together. But in any case, listen for God. Listen to God. God is he's gonna start directing your path if you allow him to. And you will see all of that the negative people that help keep your self-esteem low. You will see them start dropping off like just dead weight. And when they start dropping off, as you're doing your confession and you're talking to God and you're praying for that self-love, you're also building up your self-esteem. And that's what you need, because once you build it up, you start to feel different. You feel that confidence, and somebody can come to you and you got on an outfit that you think is the best, and they can come to you and tell you the outfit is ugly, and you looking at them like, whatever, I know this outfit is
exactly. You don't even care about what they think, because
you
you
stop
feel
caring
so
about what because
yourself
you're not doing it
that
for
what
them.
you can take you down.
That's right.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
And you know what? You were talking earlier about arrogance, about not being arrogant. But you know, when you have that type of confidence, that's what people do. They mistake your confidence for
Yeah.
arrogance.
That's
Because you
arrogance.
walk
Yeah.
around with your head up high,
Yeah.
when you know and everything. I look good, I feel good, and everything. And people who can't relate to that because they have low self-esteem, or because they don't have self-love, they can't relate to how you feel about yourself. So
Right.
instead of seeing it as confidence, they look at this arrow. She's just arrogant, and she's
Right.
conceited, or she thinks she's better than everybody else, and that's what you have to deal with. So there are some, when you learn how to love yourself, there are some negative things that are going to come along with that. Some negative attitudes from people that are going to come along with that. But guess what? I would rather people be negative towards me for loving myself than being negative towards me for not loving myself enough. Because the negativity is going to come one way or the other.
Regardless, right.
One way or the other. Yep.
You put you down, I spread rumors about you, do things to hurt you. And I'm like, so I would rather be on the other end of that spectrum, where no matter what they say to me, it just goes over my head. It doesn't bother me, because I feel that confident about myself.
Yeah.
Yep. Amen.
Yeah.
But you know, ladies, it has been really, really wonderful, and I pray that that everybody who's watching has been blessed. It's self-love. We just can't express how important it is. Can't express enough how important self-love is. And this show is really personal for me, because it took me a very, very long time to develop self-love, to learn who I am, and to really accept me for who I am. Because I was trying my best to fit into different crowds that I just knew that I had no reason being there. I didn't fit in. I shouldn't have, and I didn't fit in for a reason. Because I know that where God has me in my life and where God is taking me, everybody can't go. And there are a certain caliber of people that God want me to be surrounded with or surrounded by, because he knows that those are the type of people I need in order to push me to where I need to be. And that's so that I can become everything that he created me to be. And when you're working towards pleasing God, that you really have to make sure that you have people around you who are going to encourage you in that. They're going to push you to be better. They're going to encourage you, motivate you, inspire you, and all that. And Angelique, as you were saying, I have women that I know look up to me, people that I mentor. And
Hmm.
so I have to be mindful of how I carry myself because I know people
Yeah.
are watching. But
Yep.
even
You
if
have
you
to.
don't think
Yeah.
anybody's watching, you still
They're
have to
watching.
have that level of integrity that you carry yourself
Yep.
in the proper manner no matter what. Because
Yep.
there might be people watching you and you don't even know that they're looking.
That's
People
right.
that you're
Hmm.
inspiring that you don't even know you're inspiring. People are being encouraged by you and your words and just the way that you live your life. So you have to be
Mm-hmm.
mindful, and that self-love is so important because when other people see that you learn how that you when they see where you came from and then they
Hmm.
see where you are now, then they're
Yes.
going to want to know, how do I get to that point?
That
Yep.
Show me
place.
how to do it. They're going to want that because they're going to see how it changed your life. Self-love will really
Hmm.
change your life for the
Yeah.
better.
Yep.
Yes.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much for your time, for your patience. I thank God that this broadcast, we went through no technical difficulties.
I
And
Yeah.
know.
the devil tried, but the devil is a liar. I thank you all for the prayers and everything that you sent up to make this show happen. And for those who are watching in the audience, we just thank you so much for being there and everything. And I love you, and I want to encourage everyone to continue to stay tuned next week because we have a wonderful, wonderful show.
Hmm. Yes.
Angelique and Pamela, do you have anything final that you would like to say to the audience?
No, you guys have said so much wonderful stuff. I
I
just
know
piggyback
that's
on what
something everyone
Angelique
got to
said.
know. But I
Yeah.
want to tell you thank you, and I'm going to just tell you good night. And you enjoy the rest of your day. Angelique, enjoy your family, and our prayers are with you all. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
All right.
Thank you. I love you all.
Love you
Love
too.
you too.
All right.
So much. And to all of my MVPs out there, I want to thank you all for watching. I thank you for your love, your encouragement, and your support, always being there. And before I go today, there is one thing that I want to bring to your attention, and I want to introduce you to little Jeremiah. Jeremiah is a part of our mission project here in Nigeria this month, and he is a child who is belongs to a family who is living in poverty right now. And Jeremiah, we bring Jeremiah to our house every day so he can have a bath. We give him food to eat and everything. Since he's been with us, he has become this really cheerful little baby. He was so lethargic and just so, just I can't even describe how he was when we first met Jeremiah. But being in our home, he is now learning how to walk. He will be 1 year old next month, and we are going to be celebrating Jeremiah's birthday. And there is a link that just popped up in the comments for you. And if you want to be able to donate and give towards our mission project for Jeremiah, you can click the link that you see in the comments and send in your donations. And everything that you send in will be used towards Jeremiah. Right now, my family, as a part of our project for him, we make sure that every month we supply him with diapers and wipes and baby formula and all those things that he needs because the parents are not able to do it. And Jeremiah spends probably about 4 or 5 nights a week in our home because he gets love here. And the parents, they work so much, they work so hard, long hours, that they're not able to give him that time and attention. And as we were talking about tonight, it's really important that we start with the children when they're young and help them to build up that self-esteem and have them learn how to love themselves. And so we're doing that with Jeremiah. And so anybody out there who wants to help us with our mission project with Jeremiah, look at him. He's just so cute and so adorable. And we just love him so much. But if you want to donate towards Jeremiah and help him to celebrate his first birthday, then the link is in the comments. But also to my MVPs, I want to thank you. Make sure that you join us next week. We're going to continue with our Manifesting Me. There's War Room series, Manifesting Me. And next week, we're going to be talking about the power of setting standards because that's something that's very important and you learning who you are and learning to love yourself. Thank you so much for watching again. We love you. God bless you and much agape love to you always. Goodbye.
know would like to be a guest on the show to share your story. We'd love to hear from you. Please contact us through our Facebook page, Healing Station Online Broadcast, or email us at